As a singer, and I've realized this before when I was in the music business, and I realize it a whole lot more now, my voice is very sensitive. I am very sensitive. And if I'm not living in the right environment that I can adjust for myself, I suffer consequences for that. If I'm living somewhere and they say, well, you can't use a humidifier, because I used to argue about that before at the place that I used to live. And I said, I need the humidifier. I need it. I need it for my skin. I need it for my hair. I need it for my voice. Especially if I'm going to be singing, I need it. Their whole idea is different. Oh, it's perfect the way it is. Well, you're not a singer. I am. I know what I need. And, it's one of those things that when you live under the roof of somebody else, you're living fully in their atmosphere. And if they use a lot of chemicals, see, everybody has their own idea. I don't like to use chemicals in my home. Personally, if I had the right home for myself, it would be a lot of the way that I seen people living in one area of Los Angeles that I was in. I'm not big into using chemicals. People don't understand. They ask me all the time, how is it that you look so young and this, that, and the other? You're 41 years old. I may look like I'm aging a little bit more now because I haven't been eating right and I've been sleeping. But I don't sleep like I have been here on harsh chemical-filled material. Like right now, these sheets that are on the bed that I'm staying at, they use bleach on it. Pretty harsh, I can guarantee you. Well, a lot of people use these sheets, so that's one of the reasons why they do it. There's no doubt about it. But I use very sensitive, very scent-free detergents, shampoos and conditioners when I can afford them, lotions, all that stuff. And I'm telling you, that's why I share with you about the importance of watching what it is you eat. Everything has been taught to us. Even when I eat meat, I notice a huge downfall in everything. That's why I still do, and I don't down anybody else for doing it, but I realize I suffer consequences for that. Same as right now I'm drinking soda and stuff. That's not good. You should really drink water. And be careful on the kind of water that you're drinking. When you become a dependent, you have to eat what people provide for you and consider it a blessing. You have to live in the atmosphere that they provide. If they tell you that you can't make noise after 8 o'clock at night or 9 o'clock at night, you can't make noise. If they tell you everybody's in bed at 10 or 11 o'clock at night, believe it or not, you have to do it. Or leave. I don't want to keep living like that. I've been doing this for years. I really, really miss having my own little space tremendously. And being able to work on my music. There'd be times I'd wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning and I would write a song. Or be inspired to do something on my site or whatever. To oppress yourself that much, believe it or not, you suffer. When the person or the people that I live with end up telling everybody else that I have a mental condition, this, that, and the other, the truth of the matter is, number one, I don't know what it's like to be loved. To be loved for being Tracilyn is one thing. To be accepted is another. I've noticed that just me being out and traveling around and having my own space, I'm a lot happier. I'm not as happy as I could be because I got a lot of other things in my mind and I'm not allowing myself to be happy through my trials that I've been going through. That's my fault. But there's something to be said about having your own room and being able to do whatever you want to do when you want to do it. And I'm not saying that I should be living a reckless life. I fully am aware that, especially now, that there was never a ministry for me. That, if I were to continue on, I'd have to invent myself. It's the only way I'm maybe going to come close to having a paycheck that I can take care of myself. And I love music, so that's what I would choose to do it for. Atmosphere and the awareness of whether or not you're oppressing yourself, what you're eating, all this other stuff, it all adds up. Because in the end, if you're eating what everybody else is eating, when they're eating, you're living around the environment and the atmosphere that everybody else is living, People are dictating whether or not you should be up or in bed, or if you should be out getting a job, if you should out be doing this, if you should be doing this, if you should be quiet. And all of a sudden, your life isn't even your own. You're just a robot, pretty much, living off the words of everybody else. And I'm here to say it isn't worth living like that. You know, I fully believe in myself. It's just that I also recognize human nature. And the truth of the matter is, right now, because I couldn't oppress myself, let's put it there. I couldn't oppress myself anymore with all the different personalities that were living under that roof. I was asked to leave. I already set myself back so far now. It's going to take me a long time if I were to stay around to actually pay off just the debt that I made just living on the road. That's my choice. Absolutely, that is my choice that I made to do it. But, you know, I'm grateful that I did. But every time, and no sooner do I get started on a project, and I know realistically it's going to take years for me to figure things out. And that keeps happening, where somebody keeps doing that. It keeps setting you back. You never get out of the madness of trying to get out of the barrel. I know other people that they're very fortunate. You know, they have their dad, or they have their mother, or they have somebody in their life, and they're going through a hard time too, but it's working for them. You know, their relationships are healthy, and the people are letting them be themselves, and they accept them for who they are, and they're going about their life. It's not that it's super easy or anything like that. They have their own challenges, but they're getting the opportunity to move forward, where I'm always having a problem. And I can say in the end, I can put it all on myself and say that it's my problem. It's my fault or what have you, but I already know that's not true. My true is I'm doing the best that I can. And I have to give everybody else credit too. We're all doing the best we can. It's an unhealthy match. That's all it is. It's very nice. It's more comforting to me to say that it's an unhealthy match rather than cast blame on anybody. You know, we all do the best we can, and eventually things happen. But my situation is, I keep falling back, and I can't rise up, and it's just too frustrating for me to even try anymore. So that was pretty wild when I realized that my voice changes, and I have an amazing voice in Florida and Nevada. Let me see. I realized too when I was doing this in October, when I was back in Lickdale, Pennsylvania, and I was up in the mountains, there was a point that I actually went up to a stream where there was at one time, years ago, I heard the voice of God. As you can see, I have some vocal problems, things going on right now, but I felt like God was telling me to drink from this stream, and it was very refreshing. It was an amazing... What I felt was a spiritual experience, and my dog was running in the stream and things like that. We had a lot of unique occurrences where I felt like God was really speaking to me in this mountain. And I remember that I went back there during the making of this life story, and I had a talk with myself, and then I drank from the stream. And when I had left there, I remember by the time I started heading up to my car that there was 2 trucks. I think one was black and one was white, and they were just racing on down there. And I had the sensation like somebody was spying on me, and for whatever reason, these people may feel, you know, that like I tapped into some kind of unique waterway or what have you. And I don't know if that's true or not, but I've never seen that before ever. And I used to go back to those mountains practically 4 or 5 days a week at least, sometimes 6 and 7. I would be there every day, all day long. I would spend so much time up in the mountains, and I've never seen anything unique like that. I ran into a few people when I was out sharing my story in the mountains, and I questioned whether or not they were a part of the group or what have you, but I would say there's probably only like 2 or 3 situations that happened that really made me feel strong about that. Whether it was or not, I don't know. I definitely know in Ohio and down in Florida it was. At some point too, before I left here, they knew that for some reason, that's why I wonder about what was it that I inhaled when I was in Las Vegas? Was it some kind of truth serum? I don't know. What was it? What do you think it could have been? You'd have to go back on my other videos to really see what I'm talking about because I don't want to keep repeating things. When I was in Las Vegas and had a near-death experience, somebody mysteriously out of nowhere had a bottle for me to inhale. I don't know too many guys that walk around with a bottle to have people inhale, but while I was in either Dayton or Cincinnati, as somebody was talking to me, they mentioned that I'll be calmer, and it was pretty much in the beginning of, more in the middle of 2013 that they had said that as the year comes to a closure that I'll be a lot calmer. Also, before I left, and I was asked to leave, somebody actually told me in Dayton that while I was busking, they came up to me in one of the conversations and they said, wherever you go, make sure that you sing and play your guitar. And it was the way that they said it and the smirky smiling face that they had when they said it. It's like they almost knew that I was going to be asked to leave anyway. All this may seem weird to you now. I would have been documenting it as it was happening, but I've never been so mad in all my life. That's why I'm documenting it now. I don't know how many people this happens to throughout, every year. If it's only on an occasion that they find somebody like myself that has a unique history of a possibility of a spiritual background. What all that stuff was like with the ice cream and stuff, I have no idea, and I have a lot more of things like that. For instance, when I went to Las Vegas, I wish so bad that I would have had cameras with me because I was seeing things in the sky. And one of the things that I saw is when I left here on 70, heading west, when I got over by 75, Interstate 75 interchange, and I kept going on 70, up in the air was this humongous cloud shaped like an eagle. It was gigantic, and it was so obvious, and it was real. Just as real as the other things that I've taken pictures of and had shown people. One time when I was standing down at the Oregon District and playing my guitar, and it was weird because it was things that I was talking about with myself in the bedroom and things like that. And then I told you I'd go out and I'd play that week. Then somebody would always come around and kind of refresh things that were going on. And this was the manifestation that I felt that they were doing to me. Was I was sharing my life story and then I would stop. I couldn't take anymore because I'd be crying. Well, at this time I was talking about the time when I was in the hospital, which is, I don't want to explain it all, but I was in the hospital and somewhere along the line I felt like I was violated and that somebody put a chip in my head. I was thinking there was a possibility of that. Why they would do that, I don't know. To monitor me for whatever reason. Are they doing experiments? And I'm sure this has already happened to a lot of people here in this country, if not around the world. And they have their reasons for why they want to monitor people. A whole lot of reasons that may not even have anything to do with us personally. But you never know what's really going on. So here's the thing. When I started talking about that, then later on that week, I was standing out there playing. And this girl came out of nowhere, right? So somewhere, she walked down the street, and she had a sign. And she's going off on a rampage about she was in a hospital and that somebody put a chip in her head. And I looked over at her and I started laughing to myself and I said, this is too obvious. It's too obvious because I was just talking about this, whether it was earlier than the day or the day before. It was within just a couple days, that's for sure. And now this girl is out there at the first opportunity that I have to get out there and play because I played every Friday and Saturday. You want to talk about, it's upsetting because you like to find out. I have an idea of the possibilities of who it is, at least at one level. If it's anyone above him in the power structure, if you will, or if it's in connection with a bunch of his friends, and they're all talking about, pretty much messing with my head because they can. I mean, let's think about it. You may play video games, you may do a whole lot of other things, playing on your computer or watching television and stuff like this. These people play with people's minds. That's it. They sit around all day at their computers and they have their phones and stuff and they're talking and what have you, and they're like making phone calls. They got friends all over the place and they're like, hey, go down there and do me a favor, do this. And they can keep on doing things like that, and they enjoy it. Especially if they can watch it, especially if they can listen. Because I wouldn't stop talking when I was in between songs. I was just so mad. I've never been so mad in all my life. So knowing for sure that they at least bugged me somehow, they definitely got to hear everything, my whole life. And every idea and every thought that was in my head came out. Now, why was that? I'm definitely aware of it now, and I'm smart enough to know that if I were to live, that I would never, even in my privacy, I'd have to be very careful not to say things out loud and just put it into action. Just put it into action, because it's like no sooner do you start to speak, if somebody's actually listening to you, they're either using your ideas or what have you, and it's very frustrating. It's one thing if you put the information out there, it's another when people are invading your privacy. So at some point in sharing my story, back in 2013 or sometime in 2012, at some point I ended up grabbing a disc that I had that had my old website from when I was in the music business. And it had the website on for toddmichael.com. And when you load it up, it'll actually display. And it'll show you the site as though it was the last day when I took it down. I fell into a puddle of tears for this reason, because I knew that it was at that point that Christianity was starting to consume me. And if I was going backwards, is the way it seemed to me, is like everything else was such an illusion of lies and all this other stuff. And now I'm going back and I'm looking, you're starting a business out, if that's what you're going to do, which I didn't want to do that. A ministry, I look at, I know it's still a business, but it's much differently. Especially in my head, it was going to be much differently. But to be going back to the music business as I once used to do, by being a human jukebox and all this other stuff, and all that hard work that I put in all those years doing everything by myself or myself, as I say, you realize how that you're just starting out. Everything that I knew by looking at that website flooded my mind, and I fell into a puddle of tears. I definitely have no regret for anything that I did, but I remember of how I used to work around the clock to get that business going, and to have the success that I did. I never wanted to go back into that. It was great for a season, but I wanted to do things much differently. Especially if I were to ever do music as a business again, I would want to do it absolutely different. I'd probably want to play with other musicians, at least sometimes anyway, but obviously, definitely living with people is not a healthy match for me with anyone, is what I've come to the conclusion. I don't do well with living with people. And I used to play with all kinds of musicians, but the truth of the matter is most people don't want to do Tracilyn songs. They want to do whatever, cover songs or whatever they want to do, which is fine, but there's just no healthy match when it comes to that. I didn't realize a lot of this stuff before, because I mentioned in other videos that I had struggles with the fact that I was always diehard. I wanted, at that time, I still wanted to travel. I wanted to do all kinds of things, just stay motivated and I could never find people or connect with people that were like that too. Like somebody who says, I want to play guitar all the time, let's just go on tour and do whatever we do. But I realize more so than not, it's better off to just probably do my own thing, and then I don't have to worry about it. But I don't like doing the business aspects of it. I don't like being glued to the computer, number one, and number two, being a booking agent is just, it's not for me. That's all. I can do it. I'm really good at it too, but as a transsexual, I'd have to say no. There's going to be so many challenges. It's going to be unreal. And I was looking to start a new life and use my talents for different things. So to know at that point that I'm going right back into the direction is where they're leading me, is right back into the direction that I, by choice, walked away from and I don't regret, really brought me down to my knees. I'll never forget how hard I cried, simply because I knew how hard I worked and all that stuff. Basically, it was like Christianity consumed me, and I got involved in it, and it just took all those years of work and everything, and it just crumbled them up into ashes. And I don't want to go into too much details, but something that I like to say is just by looking at the website. I mean, at that time, I had one of the most amazing live active websites of anybody that was definitely doing solo acoustics, but even of bands and even of some professional groups nationally known. I mean, I was very competitive at the things I did. I had all kinds of different web developers. I had a computer specifically built for that. Excuse me, I had all kinds of things which I'm not going to say here. Anybody who comes across this and once seen it will know. They'll tell you. You could actually talk with Tracilyn on that site. And it was always open. It was always available. I was always working on it. There was always something. I invested my entire life to networking. I had a street team that was beginning to manifest. So a lot of people were getting my personal website address as their personal email address. They could have anything they wanted to do. I was getting people to help. I was selling merchandise privately. Everything I was doing on my own. So I was going to the post office and everything, and I was actually sending out my music, my CDs by donations, I was doing the donation things at that time. Whatever you can give, I'll get it out there to you. And I had outstanding fans. I had a lot of people that were very interested. It was a very active site that a lot of people were visiting, and I was constantly getting complimented on. I had my commercial on there, all the newspaper reviews, all that stuff. And what I'm saying is, so you realize how much of your life went into doing that, and it's still there. It's not like it's work wasted, but it's not who I am now by far. But you also start to realize how hard you had to work to get all those venues and what you had to do to get those venues, and how you were expanding and growing. And realistically that, especially being a transsexual, you're going to have more barriers than you ever thought humanly possible could come against you. And you're never going to be, I won't even be able to do 25% of what I used to do. Because before, I was willing to submit my whole image and be a human jukebox to people's, I would adapt to the atmosphere and people's likings. I don't want to do that. I'm Tracilyn. I want to be Tracilyn. And I'm not saying like this, I can't afford to dress number one the way that I desire to, or even the way I used to. And, I'm open to doing some things, obviously cover songs and things like that. And I'm open to a lot of different things. But the way I used to go about it, and it took me years because of figuring things out. Because I told you I started off as a country, and then I went into classic rock because I realized it's just a waste of time to even buy, not to hurt anybody who loves country or who's a country artist, but let me tell you, it's a small percentage of people who even care about country music. They just don't like it. And I know that from my experience. Classic rock, that was really, really big. Well, in the process of that, the wonderful thing is that all went in because I studied so many cover songs. A lot of that stuff that I was inspired by went into my own personal music. And it comes out like it comes out. So that's a blessing. But as well, so that's not a problem as a style music that I do. But I do have to be careful in my marketing if I go back to that style of business, because I don't want to present myself as a country singer. If I present myself as a country singer, then I already know that I already lost half the battle at least. And I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but that's the truth. People are very judgmental about that. They don't want to hear country music in the bar. Not every bar, but in the Pennsylvania and Maryland and New Jersey scene, they want to hear classic rock, baby, and that's just it. And everybody gets on a circuit. They all kind of do the same songs. Well, what it is not only did it take me time to realize that, but I invested a lot of time in my shows, and I won't say what it is that I used to do and how I used to go about it, but I had a one-of-a-kind show. You did not go, and I still have not seen solo acoustic or duos or anything like that. I have not seen the style shows that I used to present, so I really worked extra hard on what it was that I had to offer, and people had a great time. Not to mention every break and everything like that, I invested all my time, even my off time. I would go to people's homes, and it's just outstanding. My whole life was consumed business 24 hours, 7 days a week, except for, obviously when I was sleeping, but I was sleeping so I had rest so I could continue on. That's all I did. I have to do stuff. I'm that kind of person. I got to do stuff, and I like doing a lot of things. The one thing that I couldn't stand and was burning me out was being a booking agent. That's the one thing that just totally... I even did my own financial records and everything. I was so into this and the details. I knew the absolute details. And I was a fantastic business person. However, I don't want to go off on this because I talked about this before, but, so you're realizing all that work that you put into all those years, and even doing my own music... the bottom line is, it started to come up to where I was starting to probably do 50% at least or 60% shows in the end of my music. That took a long time to get there. Can I just tell you that nowadays when I sing other people's songs, even the ones that I love, it doesn't move me. I feel so fake. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with people who do it. I don't want to do it. I really love doing my music, and I was a fool for believing that, that there was a God having a calling on my life, this, that, and the other, because really the truth of it is, if I start off in a business sense, when it comes down to the music especially, I already know what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to be a human jukebox and work my music in. My music's just as great as any one of the songs I've ever sang. There's no doubt about it, But the truth of the matter is, because the human mind is conditioned and programmed, we as humans, we're programmed, we want to hear very familiar sounds, very familiar songs. You can't blame people for wanting to sing along and wanting to come up, because it's minds that reflect them back in their times in life and stuff like that. So more so than not, people don't want to sit down and listen to anything new. Occasionally they might, but it's the fact that you got to work it for years before you can get your own music out there. And like I said, I'm having problems getting resources. The demo I have now is nothing compared to the demo I used to have. But I had an amazing producer and somebody who was willing to work with me, because I'm not great at every single instrument. I'm not one to do every single area. If I had the time and the space, and that's something like I tell at this house, I could work on my art, and I believe in myself that I could do it if I had the resources, but it's going to take a long time, as to where somebody who's a lot more gifted, they can help guide it along a little bit faster and make it happen right away. And that was my hope eventually, is that, I would be able to pull some musicians in that would donate their time, and rather than me trying to emulate a saxophone or something on a keyboard, which would be just fine. I mean, I could probably do that just fine if I could actually have the resources to do it and the home to do it. And it's a round-the-clock thing. For somebody to say, well, you can do it 3 hours a day, that doesn't cut it. Anybody who's a musician, an artist, or anything like that, there's sometimes you'll be up for 2 or 3 days in a row working on your stuff. Because you get that into it. Well, I can't do it at this house. So what's the point of me staying at this house if I can't do what I need to do? And it drives you crazy because it's in your head. You hear the music. You want to get it out there and record it. The junk that I have now, I mean, that's just the bottom line. I have junk compared to what I used to have. Even though it would be outdated today, all that stuff is junk. I didn't know I was going back to this. And the only reason I'm going back to this is because I don't know what else to do. My mind was so messed up in the religion, and it just sets me on fire. I got a little bit of healing to go with that. Totally sets me on fire with that. I would have never even thought in a million years I would ever go in, but I don't know what else to do, because the bottom line is I can't get a job anywhere. I wouldn't even know where to begin if I go to college, and how many years, and what would I go to, and this. The only thing realistically for me is entertainment. And I got to be honest, I met more selfish, self-centered people that have the attitude of, well, you did it to yourself and blah, blah, blah. There's no compassion, nothing like that. I had the people that did offer to help end up leaving me hanging anyway. So I realized I need to do it on my own. The problem is you're starting out with $7, $8 an hour jobs, and it could take a very long time just to get, and you're buying junk. I mean, just even these guitar cords, like, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm going to say it right out. I bought a Guitar Center cord. That thing didn't even last me but a few months. Destroyed. It's destroyed. And I don't want to get into it. It just frays, and it's not a quality guitar cord. And somebody gives me this Fender guitar cord, which I'm very thankful for that he gave it to me. That only lasts for about 3 or 4 months too. The stuff that's made today is cheap, and it's made to malfunction. I remember I had a guitar cord, a Horizon, from years ago, and I got it when I was 13 or 15. And let me tell you something, I had it all the way up until I sold it. I sold my guitar cords, okay? And I did over 1,000 paid performances with these cords, not to mention all the bands and stuff I was in. I've never had any problems with stuff like that. Now the stuff that I'm buying is malfunctioning on me, and I got to keep on trying to make money with this chump change, really, because I'm just not, things aren't lining up for me. And where I live, my location, it's not like it's accessible for me to go. I mean, I got to drive no matter where I go. Whether it's to go downtown Dayton, if it's to go to Yellow Springs. I mean, that's either way, it's over a half-hour drive both ways. You got Cincinnati over an hour and a half away. People say, well, maybe you're just making excuses. Maybe, but I never planned on going back into the music business. And if I did, I wouldn't set myself up in the middle of nowhere to do it. I would set myself up somewhere that's logical. And I would definitely have a room where I could be serious about working on my art, doing photo shoots and doing the recordings. I don't have access to those things. I don't even have access to the resources. It is very frustrating. Because meanwhile, then everybody's shouting at you, well, go get this, I went through this, go get a job, go get a job. I said everything that I did to get a job, but guess what? Months, half a year, it's a long shot. Are they going to hire you anyway? Everybody's going through their hard times, and despite, like I told the owner, believe it or not, I already know the business, and I know that even at my level, I'm better off than if I do anything else. So the smart thing is to get back involved in the music business. It's very frustrating if I were to stay alive to do that, because it's just simply something that I did not see myself doing forever. Not like I used to do. Doing it is not necessarily a hobby, but doing it more and having fun with it, because you're teaming up with other people and you're doing things, or you at least have a guitar player or somebody that's interested in it you can connect with. But I don't connect with people like that, and I won't. I do connect with people as a performer and entertaining them. I'm a great host. I'm fantastic. I have a history of that. Even when I worked at Walmart, I am a fantastic hostess. But as far as like livable relationships, it's not possible for me. And the best thing for me to do would be to provide myself a home like I once had. In order to do that, I'm going to have to go through years of trying to get my life straightened out. And I tell you what, it doesn't look too good. It doesn't look too promising to me. Not just because of me being a transsexual, but because we're all going through our things and the economy and all that other stuff. I don't like making excuses, but it's true. And I just got the battle because I'm a songwriter. I want to do my music, and I'm a transgendered lady. So also before I left, this jerk-off ended up talking to me, and he kind of smirked at me. He said, maybe you can, maybe you're called to minister to the homeless. And he laughed, as another guy would have liked to pop in the mouth. the reason that he said that, it was in a conversation that we were talking about. And, you know, his whole thing is, and it's very obvious, that once I got involved with LCBC, which the church and stuff especially, I really got seriously involved in, my mind was corrupted into believing that, you know, God was calling me into a ministry, and I was very passionate about it. I was on fire about it. And can I tell you that when I realized, you know, as an exotic adult entertainer, that I ended up ministering to people within that industry. It's crazy, but it is true. And I don't have a whole lot of time that I want to keep riding on this, because I want to finish this video up. We're almost done here with my list. But then as well as with the transgendered, you know, within the transsexual community and LGBT community. And basically what this guy was saying is, maybe God's calling me into the homeless. He was making a smart comment that I am going to be homeless very soon, and maybe it's because God is calling me into it. And he thought that was funny because he knew that's where I was heading. And what I mean by that is, when it's pumped into your mind about God's calling you into a ministry, and if you were to go around and say, you know, God's calling me to minister to the homeless, well then rest assured you may end up homeless. If God says that he's, you tell people that God's calling you to minister to the prostitutes, it may be very well that you're going to be the one who's going to be the prostitute. And I'll tell you what, made a very good point to me, although I didn't like the way he said it and the fact that he thought it was funny. But the truth of the matter is, I've been ministering to the homeless. I mentioned about how I would hug the guys out there in California, and I got kind of scolded for that. It's amazing how people kind of come around me, and there are guys that want to protect me and stuff, and but if I don't fall into their idea of who Tracilyn should be, it's the same thing. Well, I'm not going to protect you anymore if you're going to be going around hugging them, you know, and it's mind-blowing. I have now become so dependent on the world around me that even on the streets, if I'm blessed that I have somebody to kind of watch over me, now I'm living in his idea as we're living out on the streets together. I don't think so. It's my time to check out. This is all absolutely ridiculous. If some of me says, you know, this is fun times, I'm having a great time with this, and then, you know, despite the fact that my life is totally destroyed. And another part says, you know what, I can't do it. I can't allow myself, it's just going to get worse and worse, and I don't think so. There was a guy that I met, somehow, I think he ended up contacting me, and maybe you saw some of my Facebook postings, maybe not, but basically the first time I went out on a date with him, I was in the passenger seat of his car, and we were parked on an off-ramp over in Springfield at a red light, and there was a van, a caravan in front of him, and we were parked there, and his car's stick shift. Well, what ended up happening is his car's on a hill, he took his foot off the brake, which means we're not moving anywhere, but he's kind of using the clutch to kind of hold us there. Well, this older gentleman, who happened to be from Yellow Springs, was flying up behind, and because he didn't see his brake lights as he was taking the off-ramp, he smacked in the back of him. And when he did, I was sitting like I am now, only opposite, because I like to face the driver when I'm sitting in the passenger seat. My head snapped back. And I didn't realize how horrible it was, but that truck rammed into the back there and then pushed us. It kind of sandwiched us in between the two vehicles. So I didn't realize then how serious it was. I've never been in an accident like that before, and I got so many things on my mind I didn't know what to do. And I tell you, I'm going to be honest, it was a perfect opportunity for me to sue the you-know-what out of insurance companies. I really should have, and I didn't think of it. And the reason I'm saying that is, and I'm telling you, if you were ever in an accident, immediately go to the hospital and have yourself examined. I've never been in an accident like that before. I didn't really know what to do. I was talking to him about it. Number one, he was embarrassed. It's the first time he picked me up in the car and we got into an accident like that. But when he let it slip out, it was one thing for the old guy to run into us with his truck, but it was another thing when he actually admitted to me that, you know, he told me, he said that he took his foot off the brake. I think I actually seen him do it later on in the car, and I asked him, I said, did you do that same thing on the hill? He said, oh yeah, I do that. Which means that there was no brake lights on the car when the guy came up behind. So technically, what would have happened if those brake lights would have been on? Always leave your foot on the brake if you're stopped and you're in traffic. I mean, and that just got me to know right there and then. See, my life was in somebody else's hands, and they didn't care enough about my safety and well-being to, obviously, just him leaving his foot on the brake possibly could have saved me from having back problems the rest of my life now. I didn't realize it until later on. The pain was starting to intensify, and I ended up going to the hospital. Everything seemed to be okay in my brain and everything. They checked all this stuff out. It was an opportunity for me to see, do I have something wrong with my brain? But everything seemed to be okay. And I said that to the doctor too. I said, would you check out my brain, make sure everything's okay? It was a funny experience, right? But what I'm getting at is, in the end, every time I lay down now, I have problems with my neck. I don't have health insurance. You know, got myself into a bad car accident that wasn't even my fault. I was going on a date with a guy that honestly, it just wasn't a healthy match. Very handsome, very, very nice guy, but it just wasn't a match for me. And it had me think of a lot of different things, you know. But on top of everything else I'm going through, to know that, you know, the reckless behavior of others really can destroy the rest of your life. Because I'm in the passenger seat of life right now, and I'm under the control of pretty much everyone around me, you know, if they're using chemicals, I got to deal with that. However they want the heat and this, that, and the other. I lived at some places. You can only use so much water when you're using the shower. You got I can go into, so, you know, in some places you got to take off your shoes when you walk in the house. Other places it don't matter. You got all these different rules and regulations in everybody's different home. And everybody wants to live different, and they should have the freedom to live differently. And if you come to their house, it should be made very clear this is how we live. But can I tell you that my standard of living suffers? Short term, especially if you know there's a plan together, or you're coming together as a team to make something happen, to be a part of something, it's one thing. But when you have nothing to look forward to, just another miserable day, it's not inspirational. That's why, another reason why I'm still in hotels and I'm maxing out my credit card. And like I said, I was asked to go back, but I really don't know what I'm going to do. Personally, I'm going to say this loud and clear. I wish I could just go to a hospital and have myself put to sleep. I'm 41. Things are the way they are. You know, I've realized now that everything in your life, in order to live a successful life in this world, you have to hide everything about yourself, and you got to play games with the world around you. Meaning, put on a costume when you walk out the door that is sufficient for everyone else that's already been conditioned and is too much of a... For all the other ones that are out there that are too much of an idiot to just accept people for who they are and just appreciate them, you got to put your costume on and you go about your life. And it's all a bunch of lies and game playing all day long. I mean, it really is. I don't have time to go into it right now. I'm not really in the mood to talk about it because my battery's running low, and I told myself I want to get this done before that battery goes out. It's not worth it. If I can't be Tracilyn and do the things in life I'm passionate about, I don't even want to be around. I'm really disgusted with this country that they take that right away from me, you know, and other people as well. But I'm really disgusted that they take that right away from me. You want to talk about selfish? It's like the America wants to see you out on the streets suffering. It brings them great enjoyment. This is entertainment, baby. We love this. Which is contradictory to the kangaroo that's down in Texas when they're always saying about how the people in power want to minimize and eliminate some of the population. Well, that's one way to do it if they're serious about it. Obviously, they're not too serious about it, because if people in power want to kind of minimize, I guarantee you there's a lot of people. There'd be a percentage of people that would be waiting in line to go to the hospital and say, you know what, we've had enough of this. There's something in my heart. If I can't be myself and do what is intended to do from my heart outside, then I'm either A, on the wrong planet, or B, I've been kept here against my will. You know, however you want to look at that. When I was in Las Vegas the first time around, I had all kinds of scary experiences. And I also mentioned this on my Facebook, but I was almost raped twice in one day. While I was there, and it was, things were just starting to heat up and get worse and worse, and that's how I ended up smoking there in the end and not caring anymore. It's just like I'm totally freaked out. Why in the world this great God would call me out here to just totally have myself slaughtered is what it felt like. And that's still what it feels like to this day, you know, with the relationship that I have. I tell people, I laugh, I am not Jesus. The biggest mistake in the world that I made was ever wanting to have a relationship with is it fictional, non-fictional? I don't know. With a character that's not real. See, brain, I don't know. I have talents in some areas, but I don't know everything. I'd have to look it up to double check. I always got confused with that. But here's the thing. It doesn't matter. It's not real, and you're going through these guidelines of the fruits of the spirit and things like that. And let me tell you something. It's just leading you into the most horrible situations, and you don't know it until you do. Until you're actually, like, now I see clear. Especially when I'm eating healthy, things are shiny and it's absolutely beautiful. My senses are outstanding when I'm eating. But here's the thing: in the process of all of this, everything's kind of really foggy to me, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. I thought I had a tumor in my brain, or there's something going wrong with my eyes, and this, that, and the other. But what it was is I was like in a trance of some sort, and you don't know until you're meditating on this stuff all the time. I'm healed from that now. Now it's too late. So I was at one end on the other side of the Cosmopolitan Bridge near the New York area. I forget what they call that. And, a guy kind of cornered me in back there. And it was very scary, the way that he talked to me, the way he acted. And then I left, of course. I got away from him, and then I went to another place where a guy actually cornered me at Caesar's Palace in a corner. Cornered me in a corner in the back, where nobody else could really see, or the cameras. I didn't see no cameras around there anyway, but it was a scary experience, All kinds of weird things were beginning to happen to me while I was there. When I went heading back this way, and I got to meet that homeless guy who wasn't homeless. Be careful if you believe that these people... It's very obvious the ones who are homeless, but let me just tell you, because they're homeless, you see them actually sleeping outside and stuff, and really, do they have a home to go home to? I don't know, but I know more so than not when I actually got to know a lot of these other people who were protruding to be homeless. Is that the right word? Protruding? It appeared that they were homeless. It ended up that they had a home. They were just out and about. And same with this guy in Kingdom City. He was a part of a home somewhere else down south. But it was really weird because we were talking about some things and he started showing me all these CDs. And one was a dominant group that I was talking about with somebody else when I was in Las Vegas. And he told me, that they started off, they were homeless. And he mentioned a couple other, and he gave me some histories of some bands. He told me, he said, you can come out of where you are and everything can be okay. It was amazing. He was a really nice guy. He taught me a lot about life. He was very smart. He actually did have some disabilities. I forget what was wrong with him, if it was his eyesight or whatever, but he was an older gentleman and he had some problems. So that's why he was really panhandling. He just had nothing else in life, and he really loved me when I came into his life because I was just so different and stuff, and we had a lot of good times together. At the time that they told me I couldn't panhandle there anymore with my guitar, busk at the top of the off-ramp, which I realized it was dangerous, but when you're in a situation like I was in, I didn't care. I really didn't care what would happen to me. I just, for the first time in my life, I was making money, and it felt good in a long time. This is what really upset me about that, is I made more money in 6 hours playing my guitar than I made at Walmart all week. On this off-ramp. Nowhere else. On this off-ramp. It was a very magical moment. So I work at Walmart all week long, for practically minimum wage. Although most of it is what I enjoy, it's not really what I want to do with my life. But I'm standing at the top of a ramp for a few hours and I make more than I've ever received by Walmart. They pay bi-weekly, but divided in two, I made more than that in 6 hours. America seems to me to be stripping everybody of the ability to be able to survive and take care of themselves and thrive. In my case, it's music. I'm getting kicked all over the place. That's one thing I was thankful about when I came here to Ohio. The fact that you can busk in town and stuff. Busking is not panhandling. And I'm so tired of hearing that when cops talk to you about it. It's not the same thing. Totally different. Number one, you're just doing your thing. You're actually giving to the universe versus give me from the universe. Totally different. So I ended up talking to the lady who had the hotel. She was really cool. Everybody was kind of cool there. I enjoyed hanging out there. But she ended up calling the police for me, and then I ended up calling to verify. But I talked to him and I explained to him my situation, and he said I can go up there and panhandle if I want to, but I'm not allowed to play guitar. And that's when I knew that I had to leave. I said, I love to play my music, and it's what I've done for so many years. It's what I'm passionate about the most in life. I don't want to just ask people for money when I have something to offer. And he said, I'm sorry, you can't do that. So, of course, I left. The other guy, that I was friends with, he told me, he said, why don't you just stay? Why don't you just stay and I want to play. I knew right there and then that I was wrong for believing, the dreams. I was wrong for everything I've ever believed. All those years, it was just like that website thing. But all those years that I had invested were a waste. You multiply that, or you add all that time up that I invested, it was a waste of time. That's a lot. That's several years when added all together. Believe it or not, over the lengthy period of time it was, that's several years of my life just wasted. And it created that to happen. I knew by that time there's nothing else I'm going to do but my music. And if I can't just do my music, then I'd rather be dead. Because believe it or not, it's very similar to being a transgendered or gay, or any other thing. You come to this point in your life where you just got to be you. Well, it's the same thing with my music. Why should I be doing a million other things when I know that's what in the world I'm supposed to be doing, and it's in alignment with my heart? obviously I got to do something to try to make money. Well, then I got to figure out a way to turn my music into money. Well, I already did that before. It's a hard pill to swallow to think that you got to go back to living in that fashion when you know that it was good for a season. But again, I'll say I'm 41 years old now. And I'm not trying to insult anybody out there who's 60 or 70 and doing it, but I just had a different vision for my life than that. When I was in New Jersey, I knew then too that it was very obviously that I was being watched, because I walked out of my hotel room, and as I started walking down, because I started busking from that time on, that's all I did is play. That's all I'm going to do. That's all I'm going to do is my music. And I started meeting people. I don't want to give any details away or anything, but I started meeting people. We had very interesting conversations. They gave me some information kind of predicting a little bit of the future. Can I just say that when I went down on my travels after the movie in Lickdale, Pennsylvania, that I ended up meeting a very similar face to the way the person described. And as well, you know, I got to, I noticed then in New Jersey, first, that when I started going out to play my guitar in a public place, like I decided to just go to a park, and then I realized why people were trying to encourage me to get out of the house and play, is because it's an opportunity for people to come around, and not just normal everyday people passing by, hey, how are you doing? You know, and I have this instinct that I can tell that they're joined together somehow, some way. And like I said, it's confusing to me. Do they care? Do they not care? Are they playing head games? Did they originally care and now they started playing head games? I have no idea. But obviously, if I didn't think that I was coming to my life's end, I wouldn't have shared all the things that I have shared with you, because I would want to be maximizing my life. The problem is, this last time when I got asked to leave, and I know it was because I couldn't oppress myself anymore, because I snapped. It's not a healthy living environment for nobody. There's no sense in even attempting to do anything anymore. So I share my life story. That's the last thing that I wanted to do. And I did it. It's done. I may have like one more message or something like that I want to share. And I know this may sound weird. It might be very dull, especially these last videos. I don't have the energy. Energy. I did what I wanted to do over the last since July 2012. Actually, the end of June, when I was in New Jersey, is when it started. I think I have my first video up around the 26th or 27th of Down on the Boardwalk. I was in a hotel room when I recorded it, and I posted it online. Then I went to Manhattan, New York. See, because one of the things I always wanted to do is like with the songs, I wanted to do stories about the songs, that I wanted to take people to the places that the songs were born and stuff like that. Obviously, finances were always an issue for me. And they always will be. I just, I did great. You know, I come from a family that was very poor, and I continued to be poor, but I had jobs and stuff and was making my way through life. Then, of course, obviously, when I wavered around from being self-employed as a musician, driving truck, I did okay, but you know, as a musician, I did quite well. And then when I got involved into the exotic entertainment, I mean, there's just, I never made a paycheck like that before, and probably never will. I did quite well with that for a brief season, but it just wasn't for me, you know. I didn't know what was going on, and in the end I find out that it's really music is what I should have always been doing, or at least even during those times. Excuse me. So when I came back, everything that I wanted to do, I did it. And can I tell you, it was the most challenging thing I've ever did in my whole life. And it by far never turned out the way that I would have hoped. At all. Number one, my life story was supposed to be in a book. And I wanted to record the songs on real equipment with real resources. I didn't realize that more so than not. You know, I understand, can I say that I understand people being thrown off by a transsexual coming into their life, but I realize there's a smaller percentage that I'm surprised if they don't just accept them. And same with myself. You can say I think too high of myself or what have you, but I am just totally blown away that when people find out that I'm trans, that they're just totally repelled by me. Like that guy in Las Vegas that I was telling you about, that he was perfectly fine. I mean, we're going all over the place together. He's proud to take me around. He finds out I'm a transsexual. All of a sudden, it's his nervousness. He doesn't understand. All of a sudden, he's insulting me to everybody. And you believe she actually has a penis between her legs and all this other stuff. I gotta say, I can't believe how ignorant human beings are. Because that's stuff I could never even imagine doing to somebody else. Even when I met that girl years ago, you know, that I mentioned in my other videos, that when she was in Reading, Pennsylvania, at the place called the Silo, and I saw her, I definitely had questions as to whether or not she was, but I didn't even insult her by asking her, and I sure didn't start yelling out to everybody, hey, guess what, everybody, I found myself a girl with a penis. I didn't do that. That's just me, though. See, I'm so opposite than a lot of the human nature. I don't know why. Some of it used to make me mad because I want to be as evil as the other people that I'm around. But I can't be. So anyway, everything turned out the way it did. I realized in the end that I gotta, if I were to do music, which I wouldn't mind doing it if I lived in a healthy home environment, and I could focus on my art, and I could begin to put together means of getting the resources, the proper resources, so I could do it right. And, you know, move forward with it. But that is very much like the God thing. It's a fantasy that is not realistic. And because of everything I've been through, my brain is worn out. I'm tired. You know, I definitely can't work like I used to work. I'm really disgusted because in the process, I got to the point of actually kissing the mirror and falling in love with myself. And it seemed that myself that I fell in love with, nobody else around me, closest to me, liked me. Other people, yes. But that's the way my pattern of life is. The people who are closest to me don't like me. Probably because they don't like themselves. More so than not, that's what it is. I'm not the problem when it comes to that. Only when I have a bad attitude. So, I wouldn't change anything. I had to do it. And when I look at the videos and I realize everything that I've learned in the process of it, it was more educational to me than the 11 years that I went to school. And it was more educational to me than a life of studying under the Christian faith. It was the real deal. I got to meet God. Right here. I'm God for my life, and you're God for your life. And the only thing that I could say is if my child was watching this, number one, I love you even though I don't know you. I love you. Don't buy into the whole Jesus thing. Number 2, always keep your mind connected to your heart. Or is that 3? It doesn't matter. We're not counting. Always keep your mind connected to your heart. Be true with yourself. And do everything you do for yourself. Because that's how you help people. Don't ever get lost in illusion when you're flipping through the channels and you're seeing all this, donate. Don't donate. Don't donate. And in the end, care about people, but don't care about their circumstances. That's what the world taught me. That's how you survive in this world. I can't blame people that have turned away from me, that lack forgiveness, that lack the grace, that don't want to receive my perspective by any means and be a part of helping out. Everybody's got their own lives and things that they're doing. So that's why I've realized I don't have anything in my life. All I got is my music. And if I can't do my music, I don't want to live. And I don't mean out on the street. There ain't nothing like being trapped in a room and not being allowed to go make your music in a nice, safe home environment and just saturate your whole entire self into your work and gracefully working on it as a business, since that's the direction for me it would have to go. I don't know anybody like that, and that's a lot to ask somebody, but obviously unless somebody gets the help that they need, they can't surpass anything. So somebody had once said to me recently, and I think I said this out in Las Vegas, this is the time that you learn who your friends are. Right here. Star. And Fan right here. Kelly, my guitar. So now I'm just kind of wasting time here. So me and Star are gonna kind of shut this down. I gotta check out of this hotel room in Dayton, Ohio tomorrow by the afternoon. The rest of my stuff is in Pennsylvania. So obviously I have to go there. It's gonna take me about 3 days of uploading these films, or the videos, depending. And just in my lifetime alone, from the 7, I was born in 1972, I can see how families are so divided up, and people are, Americans are. Just evil. People stepping on everybody's fingers and stuff and not caring about other people. And I don't mean just because of myself. Because what my eyes saw. I used to want to travel the world and do it with my music. I would never do that. The United States is not united. It's territorial. And having that name should be a disgrace as far as I'm concerned. Right now I'm too tired to express my feelings to the group of people who have been swarming over me and invading my privacy and feeding off me, using my inspiration of different things that I've been working on, especially privately, the privacy of my home. There's so much that I would love to say, but will I say it? Probably not, because it doesn't matter anyway. The whole time they just laugh anyway. They don't care. They have no heart at all. So love you guys. And if you actually listen to all of this, just be careful. Don't fall into agreement with everything that I said. I'm probably the only public speaker that will ever tell you and warn you of the danger of doing that. Be a self-thinker. Don't waste your time sitting around watching television, listening to other people's music. Don't waste your finances and resources in supporting other people. Use them fully for yourself so that you can have a wonderful life and do the things in life that you're passionate about. Don't trust anybody at all. Know in the long run that whatever it is that you share with them is a good chance that it's going to be used against you one way or another. And more so than not, when somebody says something that is of interest to you, it's probably just to get something from you that they want. And it's a lie. See the world for what it really is, because within it you'll find your means of survival. If you don't play games according to the world's way, you're never going to survive. And in the end, you might want to be like me, begging for somebody to put you to sleep. I would like to touch base more with that. It's very frustrating that once you realize there's nothing else for you, that you can't go to a nice, safe place. But that's the American way right there. So, goodbye. Thanks for listening or watching and listening to Tracilyn, also known as VCAT. This is Star. My life story. The catch-up series.